Hi, this is Lenny, and welcome back to Lude 3D. Now today I just wanted to make a quick video about Cura and a couple of features that have been added, specifically Cura 2.3, the current beta version, so you may need to download that. The features I wanted to just briefly cover are the gradual infill settings, which have just been added in 2.3, and also the per object settings, which have been available since 2.1. So I'll flick over to Cura and let's get started. So here we are in Cura. I've just got a little dwarf model there. He's got a few nice surfaces and contours that should show off the gradual infill nicely. So what I'll do here, I'll start with the per object settings, since that's been available for a little bit longer. So if we duplicate a model here, and I'll just move him over here a little bit. Now on the left here, once you've got more than one object, you can select the per model settings. So it allows you to select an object on the build plate, and you can select settings here, and then you can add pretty much you can go show all and add pretty much any setting that's available in Cura. But you can add, infill density, infill pattern, wall thickness. So we can add those, and then we can go to another model and select any different settings we like and add to there as well. Any settings you don't add or don't change here will just go off your standard print settings on the right here. But if you change it here, so if we choose the first model, say make wall thickness 0.8 instead of 0.4, maybe we want 15% infill, and then if we go to the other one, and again make that 20% infill, change the infill pattern, and change whatever other settings you'd like. So it will now print those according to those settings there. So if we go to layer view, so scroll up and you can see they've got different wall thicknesses, different infill patterns. So if you're printing, if you're wanting to see the different effects of different settings on the same model, or even if you're printing 2 or 3 completely different models in the same print, then you can adjust the settings per model to suit, which is a pretty cool feature. Simplify 3D does have, they've got their per model settings, but they've also got multiple processes, so you can add, make process changes throughout one particular model, which Cura doesn't quite have yet, but this is still a nice addition to Cura's feature set. And now, so what I'll do, I'll just go back to our normal view. I'll get rid of one of these. And now I like to go through the gradual infill settings. So to see it, you will have to add it through the settings menu here. So on the right, if we just go to the settings cog under infill, and you will have to make sure gradual infill is ticked there. And I like to add the step height as well, just so I can modify that if I want to as well. So with gradual infill selected there, it will show up on the right here. So what this allows you to do is actually step up the infill density according to how close it is to the surface of your model. So I'll switch back to layer view for this one. And so currently we're on 20% infill with no infill steps. So you just get a solid 20% infill through the whole model. But if we change this gradual infill step, say if we set it to 2, what it does is, as you get closer, as the infill gets closer to the surface of a model, it'll actually start out at a lower density, and then as you get closer to the surface of a model, it will increase the density to your maximum of 20%. So what it'll do is, if you look at the infill step heights, that's how high it will print the infill at a particular density before changing it to the next level. So it will actually halve the infill. So it'll start, you have 20% right underneath the surface, and then it will halve that for the first step, or for the first 5 millimeters below the surface. It will halve that, so it'll go down to 10%. And then the next 5 millimeters below that for the second step, it will halve that infill again down to, well, half of the 10, so it'll halve that down to 5%. So we can have a look how that affects the model here. So if we go up in the layers, so you can see here, I'll find a bit where we can see all of it. Here we go. So you can see in the center of the model where it doesn't need much, structural integrity, or it's not trying to support much. It will print your lowest possible infill, which will come down, it'll start at 5% infill. As you get closer to a surface, it will begin to increase that, so it will bump that up to double, so that'll bump our infill up to 10%, which you can see around the edges here. So it'll do that for 5 millimeters because of our step height there, and so over the next 5 millimeters it'll print that until we get to the final 5 millimeters below the surface of the model, which it'll go up to a maximum of 20%. So you can see that there. Whereas in the middle we've still got that 5% infill. So it's a really cool way of saving filament and print time by reducing the infill in areas where it's not needed, and then increasing it towards the surface where you need a bit more support for printing details and internal overhangs and things like that. So I found that to be a really useful feature, and yeah, I quite like it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you today, just those couple of features and that I've found useful. Hopefully if you weren't aware of them, or if you needed them explained at all, hopefully that helped you a bit. Yeah, so I'll leave the video there today. If that's helped you, give me a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.